I felt that something was wrong even before I turned off the engine. The homestead should have been locked down against the storm, a fortress of timber and steel built to withstand anything the high Sierras could unleash. Instead, the front door hung ajar, swaying in the wind. Snow had already blown into the hallway, pale drifts piling against the dark wood floor. My stomach clenched. I didn't shout. I didn't rush in. Years as a wilderness EMT teach you that panic is simply another way to die. You observe. You assess. You act. I stepped inside, the cold striking me like a physical blow. The air carried the sharp scent of ozone mixed with something metallic. The silence was absolute, heavier than the wind screaming outside. Then I saw him. Grandpa Silas, 88 years old, a retired geologist who knew every vein of or in these mountains, lay face down on the living room rug. His wheelchair was overturned several feet away. His medical alert device was smashed on the floorboards, wires spilling out. Before we go any further, pause for a moment. If you had to choose one person you would trust with your life in a crisis, who would it be? Drop their name in the comments. Let's honor the people who show up when it matters. I dropped my pack and knelt beside him. My hands moved on their own, fear set aside, training taking over as instinct. Airway clear. Breathing shallow and irregular. Skin pale, icy to the touch. Too cold. Grandpa, I said, my voice calm and professional. Can you hear me? He answered with a low groan, a rough sound that barely reached my ears. I checked his pulse. Weak. This wasn't just a fall. The house was freezing. I glanced at the thermostat on the wall. The display was dead. The backup generator should have engaged the instant the grid failed. It hadn't. I shrugged off my heavy coat and laid it over him, then began a rapid assessment. No obvious head injury. No major bleeding. But his core temperature was dropping fast. I needed heat. Now. I ran to the utility closet. The breaker panel stood open. The main switches weren't tripped. They had been pulled by hand. The wires leading to the generator transfer switch were cut cleanly, deliberately. This wasn't storm damage. This was sabotage. I went back to Silas. I had to get him off the floor. He was small, frail with age, but dead weight is unforgiving. Using a fireman's carry, bracing with my hips, I lifted and moved him onto the couch. I piled every blanket I could find over him. Stay with me, Silas, I ordered. We're not done yet. I opened my medical kit. Chemical heat packs. I activated them and placed them at his armpits and groin, the key points for rewarming. But I knew the physiology. I knew the clock. In wilderness medicine, we talk about the golden hour, that critical window when the body can still recover before the metabolic cost of trauma bankrupts the system. Hypothermia is different. It's a thief. It steals your ability to clot. It slows the heart until it forgets how to beat. It turns your own metabolism against you, burning through reserves until nothing remains but cold ash. Silas was deep in the danger zone. His shivering had stopped. That was bad. It meant his body had stopped trying to warm itself. I had to become his heat source. I lay down behind him on the couch, wrapping my body around his, sharing what warmth I could. I held him close, feeling the fragile, bird-like structure of his bones. I've got you, I whispered. I'm right here. We lay there in the darkness while the wind howled against the eaves. I counted his breaths, seconds stretching between each inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slowly, painfully slowly, I felt a change. A tremor passed through him, then another. He groaned again, louder this time. The shivering returned, violent, full-body spasms. Good. It was painful, but it was good. His system was fighting back. I sat up, keeping the blankets tight around him. I needed answers. I needed to know who did this. I checked the rest of the house. The kitchen was untouched. The back door was locked. But down the hallway, the wall safe hidden behind the old county topographical map stood open. Empty. $85,000 gone. Silas didn't trust banks. He kept his liquidity in cash and gold coins. Every bit of it was missing. I went into the guest room where my stepmother Patricia and my stepbrother Kyle had been staying. The bed was neatly made. Their luggage was gone. I pulled out my phone. 1 bar of service. Enough. I opened Patricia's social media. Her most recent post was from 4 hours earlier. A photo of a snow-covered road taken from inside a warm car. The caption read, "Prayers for Silas. His dementia is getting worse and he's so stubborn. We're heartbroken we can't be there with him during the storm, but safety comes first. God, watch over our patriarch." I stared at the screen, at the timestamp, at the words. Dementia. Silas didn't have dementia. He was sharp as a tack, even if he'd been a little forgetful lately. But Patricia had been pushing that story for months, telling neighbors he was slipping, telling the doctor he was confused, laying the groundwork. Safety comes first. They hadn't escaped the storm. They had used it. They cut the power, stole the money, and left an 88-year-old man to freeze in the dark, knowing the blizzard would erase their tracks. They planned to return to a body and a grieving granddaughter who would never question a tragic accident. Rage is usually hot. It burns. But this was cold. The kind of cold that snaps iron. I wasn't just a granddaughter anymore. I wasn't just an EMT. I was the only thing standing between them and a perfect crime. And they had made one fatal mistake. They left me alive. My phone vibrated in my hand. Patricia. The screen glowed with her name, and for a moment I just watched it, feeling the buzz rattle in my palm like an angry insect. Answer it. Silas rasped. His voice was stronger now, warmed by blankets and heat packs. He was sitting upright, sipping warm broth I'd heated on a camp stove. Let her think she's in control. I accepted the call. Riley. Patricia's voice was breathless, pitched high with panic. Oh, thank God. We've been trying to call for hours. Is the power out? We tried to check the cameras, but everything went dark. I looked at the severed cables hanging from the security monitor. Power's out, I said evenly. The generator didn't come on. Oh no, she gasped. We were afraid of that. Listen, we got stuck in Vegas. The airport closed because of the storm. We're beside ourselves. How is Silas? He's cold, I said. Very cold. Is he awake? No, I let the silence stretch. Let her mind fill it in. Let her picture the scene she had engineered. The old man gone. The obstacle removed. Riley, listen to me, she said, her tone shifting, tightening. The panic was still there, but now it carried a sharp edge. I command you, you need to get out of there. It isn't safe. The roads are impassable, and if the heat is out, you'll freeze. You can't help him now. You need to save yourself. I looked at Silas. He was watching me closely, his eyes clear and unblinking in the lantern light. He understood exactly what she was doing. She wasn't telling me to leave for my safety. She was telling me to leave so I wouldn't be there to revive him, so I wouldn't be a witness. I can't leave, I said. The truck is snowed in. Try, she insisted. Walk to the main road if you have to. Someone will pick you up. We'll send a team as soon as the weather clears to handle things. Just get out, Riley. Please. I'll try, I said, lying. Good girl, she replied. Call me when you're safe. I ended the call. She thinks I'm running, I told Silas. She thinks she's won. She thinks she has, he corrected. She's a narcissist, Riley. In her mind, she's already spent the money. I'm just debris she needs to sweep away. He shifted in the chair, wincing as feeling returned to his limbs. Do you know what the discard phase is? He asked. I shook my head. It's the end of the cycle. First they idealize you, then they devalue you, and finally, when they've taken everything they can, they discard you. Patricia has been devaluing me for years, telling people I'm losing my mind, isolating me, making me small. Tonight was the discard. She didn't just leave me to die. She erased me. He pointed toward the wheelchair. Look underneath the seat. I knelt and ran my hand along the metal frame. My fingers brushed against something hard and plastic. A small black box velcroed to the underside. I pulled it free. A digital voice recorder. The red light blinked steadily. I've been recording for 6 months, Silas said. Every conversation. Every time she thought I was asleep or too confused to understand. I have her talking to Vance about the lithium. I have her planning the accident. I have Kyle bragging about his gambling debts. I stared at the device. This wasn't just evidence. It was leverage. Lithium? I asked. The survey reports came back last year, Silas said. This ridge isn't just timber and stone. It's sitting on one of the largest lithium deposits in the state. Vance isn't a developer. He's a miner. He offered them $12 million for the rights, but he needed me out of the way to sign fast. He leaned forward, his voice hard. They thought I was a senile old man. They forgot who built this house. They forgot I spent 40 years reading the earth. I knew what was under my feet long before they did. The wind slammed against the walls, a reminder that the storm was nowhere near finished. But inside, something had shifted. We weren't victims anymore. We were hunters waiting in the blind. They're coming back, I said. Vance won't wait for the thaw. He'll want confirmation before he moves heavy equipment in. Silas nodded. Patricia told you to leave because she knows he's on his way. She doesn't want you here when he arrives. Then we get ready, I said. I stood and went to the window. The snow was falling harder now, a white curtain swallowing the world. But this land was mine. I knew every ravine, every choke point, every weakness. They think the storm is their ally, I said, turning back to him. They think it will erase them. I grabbed my gear bag. I'm going to show them what a storm really looks like. What about the authorities? Silas asked as I unpacked heavy-duty gear from the truck. Chainsaws, flares, tow straps. Lines are down, I said, checking my radio again. Cell towers are overloaded or dead. We're on our own until the storm breaks or I hit a repeater. I handed him a rugged walkie-talkie. Channel 4. Stay low. If they breach the house, you lock yourself in the panic room you built in the basement. I'm not hiding in the basement, he snapped. This is my land. This isn't a negotiation, I said, my voice cold. You're recovering from hypothermia. You can't fight them, but you can be my eyes. Watch the monitors if backup power holds. Tell me where they are. He grunted and took the radio. It was agreement, not surrender. I stepped onto the porch. The wind had shifted, funneling straight down the canyon, driving the snow sideways. Wide-out conditions. Visibility maybe 10 feet. Perfect. Vance wouldn't expect resistance. He was a businessman who hired muscle, not a tactician. He'd come up the main access road because it was the only route a heavy vehicle could manage. I pulled on my fire-resistant wildland jacket. In clear weather it screamed visibility. In this storm it made me a ghost. I grabbed the chainsaw. I knew exactly where to start. A quarter-mile down the drive, the road narrowed between a sheer granite wall and a sharp drop-off. A single massive ponderosa pine stood at the edge. I trudged through the drifts, the cold biting my face. When I reached the tree, I didn't hesitate. I fired the saw, its roar swallowed instantly by the wind. I cut a clean wedge, then the back cut. The tree groaned, deep and mournful, then crashed across the road, sealing it completely. Step 1. Deny access. I moved fast. I used the tractor to push snow into berms around the perimeter, creating cover. I laid out irrigation hoses, not for water, but as trip lines buried beneath fresh powder. Then the fuel. The homestead had a large diesel tank for heavy equipment. I ran a long hose along the edge of the clearing, soaking brush and the stacked wood piles I'd staged. Not enough to start a forest fire. The snow was too heavy. But enough to build a wall of flame, a message. Riley, Silas's voice crackled over the radio. Headlights at the bottom of the drive. Copy, I said. Get to safety. Plow truck, he warned. Big one. They're pushing through. I crouched behind a snow berm, flare gun in my hand. I saw the lights first, slicing through the white like blades. Then the deep roar of a diesel engine. A massive black truck with a V-plow surged up the road and slammed into the fallen tree with a brutal crunch of metal and wood. The truck shuddered and died. The driver's door flew open. Vance stepped out, wrapped in a brand-new expensive parka. Kyle climbed out on the other side, shaking with cold, a rifle clutched in his hands. "What the hell is this?" Vance shouted, his words nearly torn away by the wind. "Trees down. Get the winch. It's too big." Kyle yelled. "We'll have to walk." "Fine. Grab the gear. Let's finish this and get out of here." They started toward the house, careless, irritated, not checking angles or shadows. I waited until they were in the center of the clearing, right between my fuel lines. "Hey!" I shouted. They spun, squinting into the storm. "Who's there?" Vance yelled. I rose from cover, leveled the flare gun, and held it steady. "Get off my land!" I shouted. Kyle raised the rifle. "Riley, what are you doing here?" I said leave, I warned. "Put the gun down, Riley," Vance said, stepping forward. "You don't know what you're dealing with. This is business." "No," I said. "This is a felony." Kyle leveled the rifle at me. "Don't be stupid, Riley. Just walk away." "We can share the money," Patricia added. I didn't let her finish. I fired the flare, not at them, but at the fuel-soaked brush behind them. The diesel ignited with a sharp whump, a sudden violent bloom of orange against the white snow. The fire raced along the line I'd laid, encircling them in a ring of heat and light. They scrambled back, terrified. The flames roared, melting snow instantly and creating a wall of steam and fire. "Drop the weapon!" I screamed, loading another flare. Kyle let the rifle clatter into the snow as if it burned him. Vance fell to his knees, shielding his face from the heat. "Radio check," I said into my walkie. "Sheriff Boyd, do you copy?" Static, then a clear voice. "Copy that, Riley. I see the fire. Coming up the service road on snowmobiles. Sit tight." I looked at Vance and Kyle, trapped in the circle of fire, shivering, not from cold, but from fear. The storm raged around us, but for the first time all night, I felt warm. I kept the flare gun trained on them. "Don't move," I said, "or the next one isn't a warning." The high-pitched whine of snowmobiles grew louder, cutting through the roar of the fire. Headlights swept across the clearing, illuminating the wall of flame, the two men cowering in the snow, and me standing guard with a flare gun. Sheriff Boyd was first off his sled, a massive man, built like the mountains he patrolled, moving with surprising speed. Two deputies followed, weapons drawn but pointed low. "Drop the rifle, Kyle," Boyd bellowed over the wind. Kyle didn't hesitate this time. He tossed the gun aside and raised his hands, trembling. Vance stayed on his knees, staring at the fire as if it weren't real. "Get them out of there," I told the deputies. The fuel was burning fast, and the wind was shifting. It would get hot quickly. They dragged Vance and Kyle away from the flames, toward the sheriff's sleds. Their arrogance had melted into the pathetic shivering of men who had misjudged everything. Then another engine sounded, a car struggling up the icy drive behind the snowmobiles. She must have followed the sheriff, thinking she could still spin this. Her luxury SUV skidded to a stop. Wrapped in a fur coat that looked absurd against the fire and snow, she stumbled toward us. "Oh my God!" she screamed. "What happened? Is Silas?" She froze when she saw Vance in handcuffs. Her eyes darted to Kyle, then to me. The mask slipped just a moment, revealing cold calculation underneath. "Riley," she said, pivoting instantly. "Thank heavens you're safe. I was so worried. These men, did they break in? Did they hurt Silas?" I didn't answer. I pulled the digital recorder from my pocket and hit play. The audio cut crisply through the cold air. "Just let the old man freeze, Patricia. It's cleaner. We get the lithium rights, you get the insurance, and the girl gets a tragic story. Everyone wins." Vance's voice, unmistakable. Then Patricia's, "Make sure the generator is dead. I don't want any surprises. And keep Riley away until it's done. She's nosy." Her face drained of color in the firelight, gray and shocked. That's manipulated," she stammered. "You faked that." "It's over, Patricia," Silas said. He stepped onto the porch, wrapped in a blanket but standing tall. "I may be old," he said, his voice cutting across the yard, "but I'm not stupid and I'm certainly not dead." Sheriff Boyd moved forward, handcuffs ready. "Patricia Allison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, and fraud." She screamed, a shrill, hateful sound with nothing to do with grief. She thrashed as deputies cuffed her, spitting insults at Silas, at me, at the world that had finally told her no. "You ungrateful little witch," she shrieked. "I took care of him. I deserved that money." I watched her driven away, red and blue lights reflecting off the snow like bruises. The fire I'd set was dying, fuel exhausted. The storm was breaking, clouds thinning to reveal a sliver of moon over the ridge. Sheriff Boyd walked to me. "You okay, Riley?" "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." "You did good," he said. "Your dad would have been proud. You protected this place." "I didn't do it alone," I said, glancing at Silas. We walked back into the house together. The air was still cold, but the wood stove roared, pushing back the chill. I made strong black coffee, the way Silas liked it. We sat on the porch wrapped in blankets, watching the sun rise over the Sierras. The snow glittered, a blinding sheet of diamonds. After a long silence, Silas spoke. "What now? How do we clean up?" "Fix the generator, repair the windows, get you back to full strength," I said. I looked out at the land. The trees were heavy with snow, bowing but unbroken. "And then we run this place," I said. "The right way. No mines, no developers, just us." He smiled, and for the first time in a long while, it reached his eyes. "I like the sound of that," he said. "Welcome home, Riley. Family isn't just blood. It's who stands with you in the fire." If this story reminded you of your own strength or someone you need to protect, share it.